Welcome to Humbly the Best Celtics podcast. I'm your host, Brandon, here with Mike and Joel, three diehard fans and friends breaking down each game throughout the season for you. The journey to Banner 18. 81-1 is now on the table. Let's go, boys. 81-1, just like we planned for.
Yep, it was
Celtics are up their first one of the Wolves. Kind of a live reaction here for you guys. But we're back 81-1. Can't hang your heads down. Hard fought loss over against the Wolves on the road without Derek White in overtime. We'll get into that game, but some great things we saw last week as we catch back up on our week here. Kicked off the week last week with three big wins. Obviously, Washington Wizards. Big win against them. Porzingis back home. Brown game, 36 points for him, leading the team. Saw some great things. Hauser with 8 rebounds, leading the rebound game there. But we saw a good game against the Wizards. Mike, quick take on the Wizards game.
yeah, I mean, it was a game where they didn't have, I think Gafford's his name, their center. And I thought the Celtics did an excellent job finding that mismatch every time down. They fed Porzingis, I think, early and often, and that really put they started right out the gate with a big lead and never let up. Fourth quarter, bench came in, was not happy with their play at all. But by then we already had them close to a 50-point lead, I think. So, I mean, they could have literally not scored. I mean, would have probably still won the game. So it was a very lackluster effort from the bench, but overall, great to see the starters do their thing.
Yeah, one of the first games that I saw us clicking for multiple possessions, like for a long string of time on both ends of the court. KP was phenomenal. Obviously, Brown was just feeling it early and dropped 36 points, but KP on both ends of the court, just everything like that was really exciting to see. And just seeing him roll with that. And then obviously we go into a huge game against the Pacers and just absolutely, obviously, Halliburton, have to mention that. But what we saw from the Celtics, just absolutely firepower. One thing I loved was my favorite part of the game was probably the fourth quarter. Maybe, average fan might have turned off the game at that point. We're up by 50 something points. But for the bench to respond the way they did after the Wizards game, after the game, they talked to Hauser and he had mentioned that the bench crew got together, that second and third string of the team got together and kind of had a team meeting, knowing they got to be better for them starters, and especially what we're expecting this year. And then later on, someone else mentioned that Missoula had them in for their own whole film session and talking about Peyton not getting to his spots quick enough and just different things like that. I thought it's huge. Like if we're gonna win it all, we need everybody on board, especially with this roster. There's just different nights we're gonna need different guys to step up. On a night like tonight with Minnesota, Cornette obviously having to come in heavy with Porzingis and foul trouble and just a lot of big men for the Wolves, things like that. So everybody's going to need to be held accountable. We need guys, big game out of like Lamar Stevens and guys like that to be able to see them on the court, Brissett, Hauser. But a huge bounce back, huge response. And then obviously a 50-point win was nice. It's good to relax after the first two games where it was pretty stressful against the Knicks in Miami. But then we go over to a Nets game, which was a tough game. The Nets hang around. I love their fight on that team and their young guys. But Joel, how'd you enjoy your Nets win by 10?
There's few things that I enjoy doing more than beating the Nets. Ever since the whole Kyrie stomping on Lucky, like it's just a tradition unlike any other. Getting to whoop up on the Nets. It was a scrappy game for sure. I think the MVP of that game, obviously, I mean Tatum led the way because he had 32 points, but the unspoken MVP, and they actually went over it in the broadcast a few times tonight, is Al Horford finished a plus 29 and only scored 8 points. So the type of impact that he has is huge for this team, and was nice because he started too with Derek White obviously out. So he had a huge impact on that game. I felt like, and it was closer than I think we wanted, especially coming out of the last two games, probably than what we were comfortable with. But I mean, at the end of the day, they still won by 10 points, so you can't really beat them up too much about it. Tam had a great night. Kristaps was efficient, 80% from the field, and
Yeah,
you
Holiday was just one shy of a triple double.
yeah,
So
and
that was a
then
huge game, one of his best games with us.
one other quick note is it was probably Luke Cornett's best game of the season so far, which you had seen
By
some
far.
pretty stinkers
Yeah.
from him early in the season. And even that bench game, when the bench game played pretty well, I don't think he played as good as he did in the Brooklyn game. So that was huge to see too. He finished +7, 11 points, 7 rebounds in less than 15 minutes. So I mean that's huge. And
Yeah.
again, that kind of impact from big men when that's our probably the weak spot of our team. We'll probably go into that a little bit talking about the Minnesota game. I think was good to see.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing, Mike, we forgot to talk about against the Wizards to go all the way back is Gallinari. Huge game for him. Glad he circled it
Yeah,
on the
circled.
calendar. Big 3 points
Same
out
thing
of
with
him. So
Neesmith.
yeah, I had no problem with him until he said that. But yeah, what a response from him,
I,
putting up a whopping 3 points and getting
Yeah.
to enjoy the bench almost the entire second half. So
yeah,
I was really glad he circled that. And then Neesmith follows it up too. And
Yep.
huge game out of him against Boston.
I would love to see what that 3-pointer made it. Like, did it cut it down to like an 8 possession game, or was it still like a
Oh, a
9
lot
possession
higher
game?
than that. Yeah. 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 But yeah, great first 3 games. And then obviously tonight, play the Wolves. I knew it was going to be a tough one. Since Derek White was out, but congrats on the second baby. But not having him the last 2 games has just been like, I mean, you just see his impact. Having 2 guards like Holiday and White, and what they bring to the table, you really take it for granted when you see him go away and miss one of them. White don't miss many games except for when he has babies. So hopefully this was his last one. He's happy with 2. So, but rough game. I
Happy
just
with
felt like
2
we never
kids, or happy with only missing 2 games?
both. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to lose any more games. We
Plan
need
was a
them.
little
I
better.
can't afford. Yeah, but rough game all around. I just felt like everything like was forced, and obviously we knew Minnesota this year has had they're the number 1 ranked defense in the NBA right now. And you could see that they just made nothing easy. Our guys just weren't getting easy to their spots. We're fighting for every possession. Some rough games. Holiday, a game to forget pretty quickly, hopefully. But definitely a rough game in Minnesota. Anthony Edwards just an absolute killer on the court. But what do you guys got from the Minnesota game?
So I think one of the big takeaways is obviously like when you look at what Derek White brings, it's easy and obvious to see his impact on the defensive end of the floor because he's obviously an all defense player. But what he brings on offense as far as like the matchups that he creates when they switch and things like that, and how he spaces the floor is huge, like because it just makes everyone else's job easier, which can be said for both sides of the floor. But I think it's really important to talk about how that impact is felt on offense. So a guy that just always makes the right decisions and then that spaces the floor with his consistent shooting, it just makes Jason and Jalen's job easier, and Drew's, right? Because Drew doesn't have to do all the playmaking or be like the only spacing guard because right now Peyton Pritchard can't buy a 3. So it's also shows just I don't know, the having that highlighted by Peyton Pritchard's poor play is just kind of a pain point, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest takeaways from this game, right, is like we saw Lamar Stevens kind of early from Joe, and then we only gave him 4 minutes. He came in, he had a rebound, had a steal. I thought this was a night where we were really going to start seeing him rolling. Steve Mahalicek came in, didn't really do anything at all. But again, we tossed him there for like 4 minutes. But then you're playing Peyton Pritchard, who, in my opinion, gave us absolutely nothing. I know on the stat sheet you can look and see +13. Mike's probably getting ready to tell me that. But for me, he's in there to shoot the ball. And he hasn't hit a thing except for the game against the Pacers. And a night like tonight, I don't have all game to see if he has it. He doesn't have it early. Sam Hauser, I'm fine with, right? He was 3 of 8, 2 of 2 from the free throw line. Cornette, obviously you had no choice. You had to play Cornette with the double bigs from the Wolves. But I'm fine with playing Pritchard, but why at some point when you have Stevens, who's only played 4 minutes, you got Brissett, who we didn't see one time, who we're in a game where we're lacking energy. Why are we not seeing those guys come in? And it frustrates me. Pritchard has given me absolutely nothing and zero hope in this game to bring him in. Hey, the Wolves are a big team. I would have been fine with running Stevens in there and and Holiday, and the Holiday's on the bench, Tatum and Brown, just running a bigger lineup. Would have been fine for me on a night where really I feel like we needed to really just figure it out and find momentum, find a guy on the bench maybe that could have been that difference maker. And I feel like sometimes with Joe, not to get after him. I get it. It's one loss. It's an overtime loss. We played a great defensive team. I don't want to overreact, and I know I can do that, but it's just a little frustrating. It's like, are we ever going to dip into the bench and try to find that hot hand, right? Like, how many times have we lost to a team that's like that unexpected guy that's like, man, that guy just came in and he was just throwing daggers, and it's like, I feel like we never have those games. It's always on the starters, because we never go into that bench and just find that guy that's hot. Maybe Steven Mihalcek could have came in and tossed up a couple threes, changed the game. I guess defensive liability. Brissett, we've seen him time after time come in and just bring the energy, get the rebounds, and then we're just sticking to a guy like Peyton Pritchard who can't hit a thing right now. And I'm not giving up on him. I haven't lost hope on him. I rag on him a little bit. I think more just to mess with Mike, but it's like, man, like he's not hitting. Like that's it. Like we got to hit tonight. Like put somebody else in.
Well, and I think the issue with Ben, and Mike can come to his defense in a second here, but I think the issue past that is, yeah, he's not hitting, and it's been prolonged throughout the season. So now he's going into that territory like Derek White back in the Miami series 2 years ago, right, where he was afraid to shoot. He was 0 for 3 tonight and 0 for 1 from the field in 20 minutes. That's a long time not shooting. And how many times do we see him drive and end up stuck underneath the basket with nothing to do because he was afraid to shoot. So I think that's one of the things that the coaching staff really needs to focus on getting him his confidence and just reiterating that shoot or shoot, right? And we know how percentages work. At some point, he'll get hot and he'll have a game or 2 or 3 games in a row where he's shooting like 60% from 3. But right now, like, you can't get yourself out of a funk if you're just afraid to shoot the ball, and then you become really predictable on offense. And in 20 minutes, and keep in mind, this is 20 minutes. He didn't play in overtime, right? This is just 20 minutes of the 48 in regular game time. So I think that's part of the issue too, is now he's approaching that territory where he just won't pull the trigger.
So here's my frustration, right? He's obviously 0 for 3, right? There was a portion of the game where Drew and Brown are the main starters out there with a bunch of shooters around them, and they just put their head down and go to the basket no matter like 1-on-3. And my frustration there is like, fine, you have to trust your teammates there. You can't force shots at any point. And I felt like there was a couple times where when instead of driving, they had 2 shooters wide open, and instead Brown or Drew put their heads down and just put up a really terrible shot. That's the time I feel like where you're going to be able to get Pritchard a good open shot to get him an easy bucket. You've got to trust your teammate there, but overall Pritchard has to play better. He's doing the little things. I think, like, again, he's going to get offensive rebounds. He's trying to impact the game still, but you're out there. You got to make shots though.
And that's a good point, Mike. He did impact the game. He had 6 rebounds, and I think they said it like 3 or 4 times on the broadcast. He had 4 in his first like stint on the court. So he is a player that can affect the game. But I mean,
I get that.
To Brandon's point, for sure, he has to do it shooting and spacing. That's why he's on the team. That's why they signed him to the 3-year deal.
100%, right? He's that type of player. I get, like I said earlier, I wanted someone to bring energy. I get that as well. And every game's on a must win, right? Like we're 6 games into the season. Yes, we wanted 82-0. Now we want 81-1. But it's like, obviously, I know every game's on a must win. I get that we need to give guys minutes like Pritchard to gain confidence. But in a night like tonight, we needed somebody on the court that could shoot the ball. Nobody shot the ball really well tonight besides, I'd say, Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown, I guess I'd put him up there. He was 10 of 21. Tatum's 12 of 22. He was still 2 of 8 from 3.
I fully agree, though. Brissett had to be that guy tonight. He didn't get the minute.
Yeah.
Like we both.
And you're talking the
team
game is like 11 of 39.
This is the game you want
3.
that guy to come in and make that game-changing play with his offensive rebounds, his putbacks. He's a bigger dude with some good size to him. He would have been another guy to throw out on Anthony Edwards to slow him down a little bit. It was just a frustrating, like, I think my other issue
I just think
was
we needed to
Joe
find a
Mazzulla not
hot
calling
hand
a
on the
timeout.
bench.
What's that?
I mean, we can ride that, but it's like finding a guy that could hit a shot tonight, like on the bench. There's what, all those guys on the bench tonight, and it's, we're sticking with Hauser. I was glad he's got minutes, right? He was 3 of 8 from 3. He was chucking them up, 11 points. But you bring in, obviously, Luke Cornett's not gonna give you offense. You have to play him though for size. But why not give Steven Mihaljevic some minutes? We need somebody to hit a shot tonight. We're 11 of 39 from 3. Yeah. Who, Cornette?
No, what Malchuk? He got 4 minutes.
Yeah, you got 4 minutes, but it's like get the guy in some plays,
shot.
see if we can get him shot.
A nice
band, a Brissett, a something. Get somebody in there that can hit a shot. Pritchard, sure, great, 3 offensive rebounds, but nobody's hitting, so he's tossing it out or getting trapped in the corner. It's absolutely useless. He's got times where it's important that we play him, but tonight was a night that I wanted to see somebody off the bench that we could have just saw. Do they have the hot hand? You know what I mean? Just give some guy, even Brissett, 8 minutes. Let's see what he can do with it.
It's also not a bench problem either, though. Like just a bench problem. The Celtics as a team shot less than 30% from 3 again,
100%.
which
Nobody
is like,
really shot well. I mean, Porzingis was 5 of 14. Holiday was 4 of 16. Orford 1 of 4 from 3, 1 from 5 for the game.
Yeah,
you guys feel like Porzingis had 20, but I didn't feel like he was an impact on the game. I thought there were 20 like meaningless points.
How many free throws? He had 8. He had 10 free throws.
10 from the free throw line. He was getting hacked quite a bit. But I think the foul trouble with him, it's got to be something he works on. Maybe with the Wizards, he wasn't in too many clutch time minutes, but we can't have him in the last couple minutes of the last couple games always with 5 fouls.
Yeah,
fouling out. We can't have that. I need him on the court on the fourth quarter. I can't, especially tonight. Like having him play Luke Cornett in the last couple of minutes is not going to fly. And I need him on the court. I can't have him sitting on the bench with 5 fouls all the time. He's gotta relax a little bit.
Or even when he's on the court in foul trouble, he's just not an aggressive defender, and he's better as an aggressive defender, going up, challenging shots,
100%.
making shots at the rim difficult. I feel like if he wasn't in foul trouble, we could have done a better job trusting the help coming on Anthony Edwards instead of overplaying and getting driven past and all that. One other issue, and I think Mike, you alluded to it in the overtime, like not calling a timeout at any point. I mean, I feel like it's just this, like we're going back to reiterating.
I know you guys aren't happy with that. I know you guys aren't happy with it. As far as I'm concerned, Joe did a fantastic job managing minutes and challenges this year. He's done an awesome job, and he did tonight. In the overtime is where people are going to discuss did he or did he not, right? My thing is you have Jason Tatum on the court and a couple guys. Yes, Anthony Edwards gets hot. We know he's a dog. But you needed timeouts there at the end in order to win that game, right? If you need to hit a 3 foul, you probably needed to call another timeout to get up the court again if they miss a free throw to get another 3.
You're in that situation because you let momentum build and a run start. So, I mean, I think last podcast you had your whole speech where you quoted Joe as saying momentum is something that you can control and you can impact. If that's 100%. The case, and if that's the doctrine of the team, then you need to stick to it. And this is a time when you're on the road. This crowd is obviously getting into it. I mean, the camera was shaking. Like you need to call timeouts and dial something up, right? The coach's job out of a timeout is to find an easy basket, right? Or get a guy in a position where he can make an easy basket. And they just weren't doing that on the court. And part of it was the double big lineup that they had, having Gobert and Naz Reid in, or, I mean, they're just a really long team. So getting something drawn up, and Joe is really good at that. I don't think he gets enough credit for like drawing stuff up out of timeouts. He usually does a pretty good job. So I don't know. I mean,
I get it. I just don't think it cost us the game. Like Anthony Edwards was hot. I don't think Tatum slipping did cause some momentum. There's some serious slipping problems on the court. Al Horford slides out of bounds. Jaylen Brown is 3 to end the regulation. His foot slips while he's shooting that ball. If you watch the replay, Tatum slips on the court. I don't know what was up with the court being so wet, but I get like I would have been fine if he called a timeout. But at some point, you're 6 games in, like letting them play that out for a second.
I'm fine with playing it for a second, but going 5 minutes without calling a timeout to the last 30 seconds, it's when you had the lead at one point. Yeah, now you're looking at a miracle, right? You need to score 7 points in 35 seconds. Like it's not practical. So if you call a timeout and you can flip something one way. I mean, it's a game, and at the end of the day, it comes down to making shots and missing shots, and they didn't do it. But if we're
Yeah, we
talking
struggled
about
all
like,
game.
yeah, if we were talking about like decisions that could have had an impact, in my opinion, it might have made an impact. And if it's one basket there, then you're in a better spot. So,
Yeah,
I
and
don't
I
know.
mean, all credit to the Wolves. Like the Wolves played awesome. They're a really good team this year. Their defense is unreal. Their double bigs are working a lot better. They're 4-0 at home now. So they've played really well at home. And Anthony Edwards, obviously, we said it went off, and they did that with Karl Anthony Towns having a pretty bad game. He was 3 of 10 from the field, 1
Scal
from
brought
7
it
from
up
the field.
on the podcast. Their lineup is scarier when he's not on the court. They become really predictable because it's like it turns into the cat show, which I'm not a cat fan. I'm not gonna like lie or hide that. Like I'm not a guy
Yeah, I'm
that
not.
I've never really loved his game or his decision making, but he's the type of guy that always puts him in the position where he's not going to be on the floor because he makes the dumbest choices
Yeah, I
all the
mean,
time.
he's a
And then
-5 and a win tonight. Obviously, he wasn't in at the last couple minutes with the fouls, but McDaniels is one guy for them. He played great. I really like him. And then, man, if there's any way we could get Nas Reed from them, I would. He is unbelievable. Every time we play that guy, I mean, their crowd loves him. I mean, their team loves him.
they just signed him
I
to a
guess when
big
he
deal.
announced it, yeah, I mean, he's been phenomenal.
And you got to give credit to Rudy Gobert too. I mean, like he did change the game from the defensive side of the floor.
yeah,
Not
2 of 11 from the free throw line.
yeah, not a big fan of his game personally, but he does make an impact on the defensive end of the floor, and he did change things for our guys going in there and like trying to get to the basket. A couple times,
Yeah,
he just stood up. Jalen, he did get. And let's talk about this for a second. If Jalen gets a poster dunk, do you think it's an automatic loss for the Celtics?
honestly. And then he crossed them up. It's just like, and he can even hit the
Every,
shot.
I told my wife this before we came down and talked about it. I'm like, you can write it down. If Jalen has like a super highlight where he dunks on someone, the Celtics are going to end up losing that game. I mean, I
Yeah.
just thought of that KG game where he dunked on whoever it was. I forget who it was at this point.
Yeah.
And then KG dapped him up and we ended up losing. I think it was a Mavs
Yeah,
or
I
something.
think it was a
like
retirement game. Yeah, against the Mavs, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Minnesota obviously double big. It was pretty much expected, but like the Celtics have done a very good job this year, not being so one-dimensional with the 3-ball. Like Joe Mazzulla obviously plays a 3-ball heavy offense, but I felt like we've done so good this year of getting Tatum to the rim, in the post, Porzingis obviously with his post play, and it felt like every time we got down there tonight, it just caused it was an issue for us. Whether it was guys fumbling the ball, they were getting double teamed, they couldn't get it out in time. It was too late in the shot clock. Nothing was coming easy at the rim, and they really took that away from us. So tonight was a night you needed to hit threes, and we don't. We shoot 28%, 11 of 39. I mean, you hit 3 more of those three or four of those 28 missed threes. It's a whole different game. So that was a real night. We really needed those threes. That's why even a guy like Derek White would have been huge. Some guy, especially at how efficient he's shooting the 3-ball this year, would have been really needed, in a game like tonight. But I mean, it's a loss. We move on. It is what it is. Tough environment up in Minnesota on the road again. But the schedule doesn't get easier. We got some big games coming up as well. In our schedule, we got next up Philly on Wednesday in Philadelphia again. Obviously on the road again at 7:00. That's going to be a tough one. Embiid had a game. I feel like I had a game tonight. Had a third quarter actually, and it was unbelievable. But with Harden finally gone for them, I'm thinking they're finally feeling a little relaxed and playing their ball. So that's going to be a huge game. And then we play Brooklyn, obviously the in-season tournament game first. So I'm excited about that. See what the vibe is like in Boston in the Garden for that. And then obviously Toronto after that. Toronto's not a team you can sleep on. Obviously at home on a Saturday night. Hopefully Boston will be rocking for that. Would be an exciting game. But schedule doesn't get easier as we go. You have some tough matchups, but hoping the Celtics can get back to it. Obviously, getting Derek White is going to be absolutely crucial, and obviously, I'd fully expect him to be back by Wednesday.
Did you send that to him in writing? You expect him to be back?
Yeah, I didn't approve any more time off.
No more PTO for
Yeah,
Derek White.
paternity leave is over, brother. We need you
He's
back.
definitely a guy we could have
He,
used tonight.
well, here's the thing: he gets 12 weeks paid in mass. So the huge thing about I think about Derek White that changes this team, especially offensively, is he's one of the best players when you look at the metric like points per shot attempt per 100-point shot attempt. He's like 160, so that really will turn things around. I will really want to see him back, especially comparing how we look like we're playing the Nets again on Friday if he's back, and we have that compare and contrast to where we play them without him. How does everything look? Does it look like an easier game where we look like we're going to score 150 points again, or what type of game do we get out of that? But I'm really personally I'm excited about that into season tournament. The courts from the
Me
other
too.
night
Yeah.
were sick. The Bulls one was kind of ugly. I think ours looks pretty cool. I wish there was a little parquet in there, but
Yeah, I wish they did the strip and the parquet would have
that
been
would
like would have
I
been the
think that'd
coolest core
be
in the
sick.
NBA if we had that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about obviously the city jerseys coming out. Not as cool as last year's, but they look cool.
So
I already ordered mine; it's already in the mail.
it's
But
a nod to Springfield. You gotta love it.
yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's iconic. But yeah, I mean, in-season tournament, I think it'll be fun. Brings a different aspect to the game. Brooklyn already had their first game against the Bulls, and they're in our group. So as soon as we play them Friday, so will be fun to watch. And hopefully we can get 3 more wins in the meantime. Because obviously, in order to get to 81-1, there's no more losing. So hopefully the boys understand what's ahead of them. Let me ask you guys this. Do you guys think Al Horford? Are you guys concerned at all? I guess I should say with Al Horford in his role. Are you concerned that he's not happy in it? He hasn't said anything. Obviously, we've heard everybody say everybody's going to give something up, right? But at the end of the day, these guys are competitors. Um, Mike, any concern with Al Horford in his role about him how he's embracing that?
So we started tonight and scored 3 points, so I'm not thrilled with that. But
Agreed.
overall, I mean, I think he's a better off the bench, and if there's anyone that's willing to sacrifice, I feel like it's Al. He's a veteran. He's the oldest player on the team.
The front office took care of him.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't play a lot of back to back, so I feel like if anyone's willing to take a lesser role, it's Horford. And I think out of the six guy, he's probably the least important piece. Not that he's not important, but I think out of the top six, I feel like he's
That's my vet,
the
dude.
least
Are you
impactful.
serious?
So it's
That's pretty rough. After Joel just said against the Nets, he was the unsung hero.
and he's
Yeah,
gonna have his games, but I just feel like I would take White. Obviously, I was kind of 50-50, but after seeing the way White's had career numbers so far through 4 games that he's played, I think he's shooting like 58% from three and just averaging career high in points. I'm and his defense. I love him in the tandem with Drew out there. I feel like we definitely lost that. Both sides have played the last couple of games, so.
yeah. I think it's an easy choice if the choice is between Derek White and Al Horford. As far as him like being unhappy, I think he's one of the leaders that they decided to keep around. I think some of the voices they got rid of over the offseason, we talked about that a couple weeks ago. And they kept him on purpose because he's the type of guy that winning is all that matters right now to him, especially at this point in his career. He is a role player, obviously a very high end role player. But he's also a guy that knows like what it's going to take to win. And I part of it, I think the team knows, and he knows that it's one of those things that he's not going to be hurting for playing time or starts. Right, they're going to come up. The guys are going to get dinged up or miss time here and there, and he's the next man up, which is just kind of the mentality that you have to have in order to win. So I don't think
Yeah.
he has a problem with it for sure. And I mean, I haven't loved his impact so far every game this year, and the advanced stats really don't speak to a great impact. But some of the lineups that he's in, like the numbers, the defensive rating, and the offensive rating have been really good. So you can't really beat up too much on his individual stats because it's never really been something that, especially with the Celtics, this last run has been all what his impact is on the team.
Yeah, I think for me, like obviously, if it's Derek White, Drew Holiday, whoever you want to put in there, any of the 5 starters that we have right now over Horford, it's a no, right? Like I want Horford off the bench. I think that over the last week it was a little tough because he didn't really get to see the court in the second half. I'm hoping that his thought is like, hey, perfect. I got a rest. Like they didn't need me. There were blowout wins, and I didn't have to really play much in those second halves really at all. And he's older and just that vet, like hopefully that, that ring and trophies on his mind. But at the end of the day, I know Al's a competitor and wants to play. His minutes are down right now to 21 minutes a game. Not a ton, and then he's only shooting the ball, like the three ball, at 25% right now. So, my concern is, at the same time, like, yes, I want him to come off the bench. I don't think he should start over any of our guys, but can he still bring that impact? Last year, we saw him whenever he rested, he was huge. Like the next game that he would have, we had 2-3 days off. Those games were like some of his biggest games. Right now, he's playing a little bit of minutes, and it's like, he's not finding that like flow. He's not like that. It just doesn't seem like the game's coming easy to him out there, and he's not really hitting his shots. So I'm a little concerned with that. I don't think that really ties into is he like not happy with the role? But I'm sure as a competitor, though, that's going to become frustrating, right? It's like his inconsistent minutes, doesn't play second halves. Then you're not really hitting shots. You, as a competitor, know you're not impacting the game like you should be. I'm hoping that he can, and like Joel said, of course, there's going to be strings of the season where guys go down. I'm hoping that we start on back-to-back games, which we haven't had to deal with really, but on back-to-back games, we know he doesn't, we don't use him on the second game. Maybe those first games we can give him heavier minutes, knowing he's not going to play, lightening up the load for Kristaps that night, depending on who we play, and then balancing it out that way. I'm hoping we can use as we get into like the the majority of the season, and obviously you want to keep Kristaps healthy as well.
Yeah, I think at this point too, Kristaps has made it harder for that kind of stuff because of his foul trouble issues. And the other part is the team has just been blowing people away. So I think they're all playing with, and they say it over and over again. They're playing one thing in mind, and it's not this time of year. It's not November. It's not December. They're playing with other ideas and other times of the year in mind. So he's 37. Like he's got miles on him. He's been in the leagues, I think, since 07. So I think he knows where he is in his career. I mean, look at Mike Connolly's role too. It's not like he's playing crazy minutes for the Timberwolves either. Not like 40 minutes a night anyways. So I don't know. I think it's just I'm sure he's a realist about the situation.
I
wouldn't say
find that. Like, he had a great game against the Nets. I'm just hoping he can find that
consistency.
Coming off, and can adjust to that bench role and find that consistency, because it's going to become frustrating if you're quarter into the season, halfway through the season, and you just can't like find that role off the bench and impact the team. As he's obviously going to want to. And I'm hoping we get a guy like Quetta back soon. Obviously he's been battling the foot injury. But a night like tonight, I feel like he really could have had an opportunity, to be out there. So I'm hoping we can get him back soon. They said he was starting to get some workouts in, things like that. So
yeah, I'd be excited to have him back too. And the other thing about Horford too is the counting stats are never going to be something that are like, wow, he had a huge impact on the game. It's one of those things that it's more on the defensive side of the ball that you see his impact.
I agree, but 25% threes is not typically him, right? He's usually, his career is like 37 last year, regular season. He was in like 40s.
I think where you're going to see an impact is Wednesday night against Philly. I mean, he always does such a great.
That's his Embiid
and
matchup
that's
that he
like
wants.
Embiid, Giannis. That's where he shows his versatility, and I feel like those games he really gets up for.
100%.
Such a good job.
Because he lives. I like you just said, the defense, like when he's just killing it on the defensive end, like he eats off that. He's locked in. He's out flexing at the crowd, and then he's hitting his threes and firing up the crowd. So I agree. And it's like, is he finding that role off the bench is my only concern, and I'm hoping that he can. I'm not saying it's like right now, all right, then pull the trigger on White, because obviously we're seeing the impact that White, and if we don't need him in the second half because we're blowing teams out, with our starting
Wednesday game is big.
Is.
We're both 5-1. Philly's the hottest team in the league right now. They won 5 straight. They've lost their first one and they've won their next 5. So,
dude, I never want to hear you give Philadelphia a comment. I don't care if they were 6-0. I don't ever want you to give them a comment.
I'm just stating facts. I'm just stating facts for Wednesday's game.
That's not what we pay you for. It's your opinion.
A W.
One of the things too about Al is it's mostly sample size too, because he's 3 for 12. I mean, he only has 12 attempts through 6 games. So I think last year he averaged like 5 or 6 shots a game. So I mean, you're right. That's part of it, is like in that diminished role, is he going to be able to be as consistent?
Yeah, I'm excited for Wednesday's game though. I mean, huge game for Al. That's his matchup that that he thrives off of in the NBA. And obviously the Sixers disrespected him after he left us the first time for the Sixers, even though they paid him. But it's going to be a big game. So let me ask you guys this then. We'll end on this note. Celtics play the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. We beat them in 4, 5, 6, or 7.
At this point, I would have concerns about the Bucks making the Eastern Conference Finals,
Yeah.
just with their
That
defense
is awful.
so bad.
The worst defense in the NBA. Dame Lillard's lazy. I'm sick and tired of the people that were like, "Oh, the Celtics lost Marcus Smart." We got Drew Holiday. He's a defensive lockdown. Then they go and lose their defensive anchor, but we didn't hear the media like, "Oh, they lost their defensive guy. They lost their heart and soul." Giannis can't play defense. Dude, Chris Middleton, that old man's knees. I don't want to hear it anymore. That team is trash. They can put up points, but they can't stop anyone from doing the same to them. Dame Lillard is the laziest defender in the NBA, hands down.
Have you met James Harden?
I submit to you.
He's only played one game this year, so this is his first game tonight. So yeah, I'm still putting Lillard at the worst defender right now in the NBA. He's not young, he's not good. Yeah, he can make a bunch of shots, but man, that team's defense is awful. And don't give me the name Jay Crowder, because Jay Crowder for the Bucks, he's old and he's useless. He is absolutely useless. And I dealt with him in Boston for just too long. He's gonna also cost you on the offensive end way too many times.
So here's the thing: right now, through their last game, their offensive rating per 100 possessions is 110. Their defensive rating, they're giving up 118 per 100 possessions. The thing that really made Giannis a huge, unstoppable force is playing in transition. Their defense doesn't get that many stops anymore, so they don't get the same type of offensive flow where they're playing fast and in transition. So I mean, obviously, the caveat, it's early in the season. What are they, 6 games in, 5 games in? They're 5 games in on the year.
Defense ain't getting any better, bro.
Yeah, it's not getting better, but the offense could get better, right? That offensive rating could go way up.
But losing Drew Harden was so big.
I don't know who Drew Harden is.
Drew Harden for losing Drew Harden. Yeah, Mike's got Harden in my head now. He is definitely one of the worst defenders too. But yeah, but losing Drew Holiday was absolutely horrible for them. I'm telling you, the impact that he has on both ends of the court for them. Holiday was guarding 1 through 5. Whoever the best defender was that was playing the Bucks that night, Holiday guarded.
Yeah, their best offense.
100%. He always had to guard the best player. Now he's going to guard him.
Yeah, and
Middleton?
part of the whole conversation, about Brook Lopez being an Defensive Player of the Year candidate was predicated off of having Drew Holiday and Giannis in that, and that's what really made them a lethal defense. And at this point, not having that, you really are seeing that parking Lopez in the paint, you don't have enough to make up for it on the perimeter for sure.
And when Lopez for the Celtics side, he's never a bother to me on the defensive end because we always stretch the floor. I mean, even last year with Al at center, this year we got Porzingis. He's pulling him way out of the paint, and if he doesn't, I mean, come on, you're leaving Porzingis open for 3.
And I think part of Lopez's great defensive is he's really good against contesting guards, and with Tatum and Brown, I mean, they're longer, taller wings, so it's not always something that he affected their finishing. I don't think, at least from memory. Might be totally different. I might be wrong. You could look at it, and their effective field goal percentage against them could be terrible, but I have no idea.
No,
but just from what I remember,
November 22nd, we got him on the menu. So
yeah, couple weeks
in Boston, we gotta put up a dub that.
Yeah, I think that's the night before Thanksgiving, so that's gonna be a huge
big game. Yeah,
it's gonna be huge. I think, I really think, obviously, they're the Bucks, right? I also think the new coach is playing a big effect into some of their early struggles as well. I was shocked that they dropped Budenholzer like that after winning the ring with him, things like that. Not saying he was, because of that, he had to stay forever, but I didn't think he was a bad coach at all. And him and Giannis seemed to have a really good relationship. Giannis was kind of, blindsided by it. So I was shocked that happened. But I really think the Sixers are going to put some pressure on the Bucks for that second spot. I don't think it's, just after 2 weeks in, yeah, we're talking standings already.
Yeah,
but,
we can only talk about what we've seen though.
First and two, yeah. I don't think that 1-2 like Boston Bucks own it. The Sixers are phenomenal right now. I mean,
And they have a
I know I
trade
yelled at
to
Mike
make
for saying that, but yeah. So and they got those guys to incorporate. So it's gonna get pretty crazy.
Yeah, they could spin those guys and the picks that they got into something else too. So I think they'll be
Yeah,
good.
100%.
Yep.
All right, well, big week, huge game against the Sixers. Big Owl game, we're calling it here. So excited for it. Hopefully we can come back still on pace for 81-1. See you next week.